Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. We are here with Talent Collective. Talent Collective is a community for women in the talent acquisition and people space. Really excited to have you all here today, and very excited for our two guests that we have. We have Adrienne Fretz and Amy Lee Flowers here with Tend HR. Adrienne and I actually spoke, maybe a few months ago, and I've had a few follow-up meetings ever since, and really just connected about Adrienne's background in the TA space and the people space. And she's really just done some amazing things throughout her career journey, and most recently, very excitingly, launched a company called Tend HR, where she provides services to HR professionals that help us all pause and take a moment and focus on wellness. So that's really what today's session is all about. And we have Amy here as well, who's with Tend HR. So super excited to be here today and to learn a ton and hopefully walk away from this session feeling refreshed and revitalized and inspired. So would love to pass it over to you ladies now.
Thank you. Fantastic. Hi, I'm Adrienne Bigley Fretz. So nice to be here with my people, women in talent acquisition. So I've actually had an earlier career that was in consulting and in talent management. But for the past almost 13 years, I've been doing executive search, actually specifically for HR and talent communities. So my clients are all different shapes and sizes and industries. And through Anso Partners, my search firm, is really where I've done a lot of listening. And all that listening has really led to the development of Tend HR. There's so much that people, right, carry with them. And so the tagline that we have for Tend HR is we support the people who support people. And so there's so much of that in the work that you do in talent acquisition, right? Kind of holding a lot of the organization's strategic intent and the hiring managers' hopes and dreams, and also your candidates and all the things that they're hoping for. And I know as much as we like to have them make that match, there's also a lot of people that we carry with us that don't get the final role, or we ourselves, right, are in transition. So we know that there's a lot going on in the world right now that makes talent acquisition a particularly challenging moment. Organizations are shifting, DEI layered on top of that, and what does that mean, and where are the priorities, and what did we think we were accomplishing, and maybe now is a little different. So all of those things have led to the idea um, that we're often taking care of and supporting and holding space for others in the organization. And I kind of started asking the question, who's doing that for you? And while yes, there are offerings out there that might say, kind of do this wellness thing here and there. What I've really tried to pull together is my background in organizational consulting, human behavior, sustainability, and kind of change that sticks. And working with Amy, who you'll meet in a moment, I'm designing something that that has some consistency and some community built in. We know we've been hearing quite a bit about loneliness in the workplace as well. There's a whole HBR spread on it this month as well. So how do we stay connected in the right ways, even when we're working remotely? And maybe we're talking to people all day, but are we really connected? And so I think what you're doing, Krista, at the Talent Collective, is so important for building that sense of community. And we share that intent at Tend HR. Maybe we can just quickly through the agenda. So I've given you a little bit of the overview of Anso and Tend HR. Amy will share with you too some pieces about how evidence-based the work is that we're doing, right? There's sometimes we know we're supposed to breathe, but why? And what do we need to understand about ourselves and how that really helps. And as we were creating this workshop for today, thinking about reconnecting to our purpose, right? Sometimes we get so active in the work that we're kind of like, wait, where was the spark that I started with? Why was I doing this to begin with? How do I get back to that? And what is my real intent? And spending some time today with that question, and Amy will guide you through that. And with the idea that we're teaching you some things that you can take, as I often say, I'm a yoga practitioner, right? Kind of what do you take off the mat? and bring into your day. So what can you take out of today's session and bring that forward into the way that you're thinking and doing? And we're also going to end with a little gift for you. So maybe make it even easier for you to think about how to take these practices forward. So share with you a bit about the concepts of Tend HR and what we do at Anso Partner, and with Tend really focusing on this capacity building. Very often we're asked to do more. And sometimes we're saying, well, how can I do more if I don't have any more capacity? And capacity can be both expanding the vessel, but also taking some things out. So what are maybe some heavy rocks that we can put down, some big boulders that we've been carrying around with us that we don't need anymore? And how do we build that capacity? And as we evolve with Tend HR, we just launched in September. So as we evolve with Tend HR, our intent is also to add in some capability components, where kind of what is the newest thinking that we need in talent and HR roles inside organizations or when we're serving organizations. And so we're just at the start of our own journey. And with that, I would love to have Amy talk a little bit about how we're designed to be different.
Amazing.
You want to pick up with that, and I'm happy to add in too.
Lovely. Hi,
Um,
everyone. Good afternoon.
I
Good morning.
really quickly. So Amy and I have been working together for over 8 years. Amy is there's no one else like Amy. There's there's an incredible set of skills and experiences and practices that Amy brings to her work, and I have personally benefited, and I can tell you 100,000% I would not be sitting in this place in this way without having someone like her as both a coach and teacher through this. And so when we sat down and said, I really want to create something like this, and collaborating with Amy, that she brings such a different skill set, right, than we would have in corporate training or corporate development. And I think that's the beauty of what we're seeing, more integration in neuroscience, in embodied leadership, and then what we can bring it to this. So Amy, sorry, take it away.
Thank you so much, Adrienne, and thank you, Krista, for having us. And good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Such a great honor to be here. I do want to highlight that in a moment, we are going to really encourage sharing. This is definitely a collective experience, but we're just kind of painting the tone of our day. Great honor. I've been a practitioner as a student for 20 years and a teacher full-time for 10 years. And so why I've been so intrigued to do this work specific for HR and talent is because there is a driving force from your heart to connect with people, to open doors, to find the right placement. And often when we lead as HR, in our HR world, we are leading from our heart, and not corporate systems are not always set up to really hold the heart. So it is our great honor to bring these research-backed practices to really support you, knowing that as you take this time for you, you can reactivate and then go out into the world. So Tend HR is different for many reasons. And what we love so much is because it's truly specific for you. There's not many places and spaces that can really hold what you uniquely offer to the world. And what I also love is, yes, we're here to support like-minded people, just like Talent Collective, right? Bringing the right people in and just offering, our magic, our essence to the world. And truly, our North Star is our research-informed and science-backed practices around why the breath regulates our nervous system, supporting our focus, our clarity, how when we use our deep breath, we train our diaphragm to be stronger than ever so that our stress hormone stays quite low. And maybe this is a great time to come off mute or put it in the chat or a thumbs up. Have you ever walked into a room and you felt somebody having a bad day? Yes, double thumbs up. Thank you, Carly. Yes. And truthfully, because we are all, feeling each other. And this is not to say that having a bad day is not okay, but Tend is a space for us to, do our work and take take the time, the short period of time to really feel ourselves and honor what we're going through so that we can have a greater impact and influence for those around us, knowing that if we're holding, right, the rocks, as Adrienne mentioned, or the stress or the worry, when we go into the room or the space, are we, putting that on somebody else? And I know for the most part of working with so many individuals and organizations, we don't want to do that. We actually want to create a place of joy, but it all starts with us. So Tend HR is a place where it starts with us and then it continues to have a ripple, which you might see in some of our images, really honoring nature. And then the last thing, yes, then the last is, yes, we're here as the collective, but it starts with the individual and then the team approach. And so what we love about Tend is these spaces are small, short, and effective. And then we're going to get to go through it together. So thank you for hearing that. Adrienne, do you want to talk on the offerings and then I'll lead us through our
Yeah, just a minute. And maybe also, I would love to hear, I'm seeing a little bit in the chat about where people are working, or if you're seeking, would love to hear that too. So I don't know if you want to come off mute and tell me what you're up to. If anybody wants to share kind of the stage that you're in and what might maybe some of your challenges are.
I'll jump in. Why not?
Um,
Hi, I'm Kelly. So I'm working with Krista, she mentioned earlier with Talent Collective. I am the director of membership. So if anyone is also looking to become a member, I'm your gal.
great.
I have actually I was in an agency recruiting for 14, 15 years at Premier Talent Partners, which is where I know Krista. I did make the leap, as they say, over to internal recruiting, which was challenging but great. So I learned a lot there. I worked at Salesforce for the last 3 years. I was part of a layoff, unfortunately, last year. Did decide to take the year off to evaluate my next steps and to, quite frankly, be a mom, I think, 2 teenagers. So I'm sort of in a transition period right now. I am doing this work with Talent Collective, which I love. I'm jumping into these meetings, which I love, but I do need, a full-time job. So I guess I'm kind of just like finding my path right now, but I'm out here in limbo, but I'm loving this work at Talent Collective. So
Mhm.
I'm very engaged in that. And I think that one thing does lead to another. So I did like the internal side. I don't think I'll go back to agency. But I'm just, I'm quite open, and these types of things I think are really good just for my search process to kind of breathe through it. It's a lot to be managing
Sure.
family and a lot of personal things, but I believe that one thing, put the energy out there and it starts coming back to you. And
Oh my God.
I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in Corte Madera near Mill Valley.
Amazing. Well, you
Yeah.
really hit it on all of it, right? I, you didn't choose a pause, but it chose you, right? And it sounds like, and then how did you make that more intentional for yourself, right? How did you take some time with your family and the opportunity to step back and reflect? And we can do those in smaller ways and maybe, kind of and building some of that into our daily practices. But I love that, right? That you've kind of had that time to think about where you really want to play and how those experiences come together. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Interestingly, I probably approached in more of a burnout way. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, right? Starting businesses, having kids, holding a lot of emotional space for all of that. And this set of offerings that we have here are a number of things that I've experienced personally and had some really great success with. So as you'll experience, and Amy's going to take us through a pause, which is one of our core offerings, which is this 15-minute that you can do on a daily basis. We also have a release, which is a 60-minute kind of body movement on a weekly basis. I'm not somebody who's really consistent every day, and I've learned that that's okay. I don't need to judge myself for that. But just being able to say, actually, a weekly sort of cycle or rhythm, sometimes that's all we need. And I guess just to say, some of this may be uncomfortable to start. Some of it may be like, oh, I should do all these things. And sometimes when we're about to start a new habit, we're like, okay, coming out of the gates, I'm gonna drink my 80 ounces of water. I'm gonna, eat right today. I'm gonna exercise every day. and it's too much, right? Kind of at once. So part of this is just, kind of, Amy will use the word an invitation, right? So kind of how do you layer it in a way that's really sustainable? The practice is a deeper exercise, and actually we're going to invite you, if you are able to. We're running one of the practices in November, which is a little bit deeper dive. And I find whether you're fully employed or thinking about what you want to do next, or even in this in between space, getting more in tune to yourself, quiet enough to listen, and doing some reflective work can be really helpful to gain clarity. And that's one of those pieces that helps us as we build that capacity as well, and any one-on-one work. And as I mentioned, we're very new, so there'll be things coming. But the pause is really that first step in, and thinking about how could you build a small practice that has a big impact. So Amy, will you pick up from here?
Yes, thank you. Okay, loves. Everyone can see my screen. That's great. Okay, I'm hoping so, as we were just going through. Lovely. So we are going to get started. As Adrienne mentioned, this will all be an invitation, but so we're going to go through a little bit of a journey together. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It is going to be interactive. So we're going to kind of go through each slide as a bit of a practice, a reflection, and then an option to share. So it might be nice to close the eyes, or look down. You can stay off camera or place that off if that's more comfortable for you. Really building this space together. And if you're listening via seat, really starting to feel yourself held, feeling into the feet. And let us take this moment to breathe through our nose on the inhale, filling the body up, going past our edge, which might be the collarbone, the chest, and bringing that breath to low belly, expanding. And then once you're full, exhaling it out. And we're going to be here for a little bit. So I'm going to just guide us through, again, what feels right for you, depending your environment. So we want to breathe in, and we want to really support this expansion of our lungs. So it's the biggest breath of our day. And then once we're at peak, we're going to exhale it out softly through the mouth and maybe making an H-U-H sound. And let us stay with that for a few moments. And this is our reminder that here we are in our workshop together, nowhere else you have to be. And as you continue to breathe, I'll share our opening quote. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you, Anne Lamott. And as we're breathing here, can we start to really feel ourselves? By feeling ourselves, it might be feeling the chair, the feet. It might be feeling into the temperature or the quality of the air coming in through the nostrils. In this mindful minute, we're just taking that, a bit of a pause, a micro moment. And I'm going to ask for us to, in our safe space where no judgment, really being honest with ourselves so that we can transform and move forward, is how often do you feel like you are on autopilot throughout your work day or throughout your day? And the autopilot is, just on to the next, not maybe necessarily celebrating or seeing or feeling. It's just, and we've all been there, I'm definitely not above it. And then by the end of the day, you sit down or you lie down and you're like, that was a lot. And for many of us, that rhythm is very frequent because life is so full. And the work of Tend HR in this moment is really to keep us engaged in our work, to activate this sense of, yes, I want to be in that. And the question we're here to, get curious about is how can we live such a full life and really savor it? So once you have kind of the idea for the first, the next question I want to bring through before we share is, what do you uniquely do to help anchor you back into the present moment? There's no right or wrong way in the realm of mindfulness or embodiment. And we'll breathe in and breathe out. And we can hold a soft gaze or slowly flutter the eyes. And I'm going to invite us, whoever feels called, to come off mute. And please share. The questions are on our screen, either one or the other or both, in an honest way about autopilot, and then what do you do to come back to you?
I'll share.
Thank
So I feel like for the first part, the autopilot, there's always this moment right after lunch where I'm like, I've already left my little space. I'm hungry or I've eaten, so I'm full and I'm kind of settled. So what I do to bring myself back to the present moment is now something I always do, which is I'm standing and I have my little treadmill underneath me. So when we had to close our eyes, I had to turn off my treadmill. So now I actually don't lower my desk anymore. I used to like lower it after lunch, but then I'd have to remember to re-raise it and I'm less likely to do it. So I'm just always standing. If I want to sit, I move my computer into a different room. So this desk stays standing and I just kind of get to relocate to a chair.
Thank you so much, Carly. May I ask, can you share what you noticed about maybe your life changing or your day changing since making that choice, right? You declared that.
Yeah. I mean, I read, someone told me this and I don't think it's true, but they were saying how like sitting is like now just the worst thing you could be doing for like how much we're sitting. And then I would just get that in my head. So I'm a pretty competitive person. It's my number 4 on my strength finders actually. So I got an Apple Watch and now I'm like tracking how much I'm standing, and because I know I'm doing it and it makes me feel good, it's like reaffirming that I'm doing something right and being self-competitive at the same time.
Thank you. That is absolutely inspiring. It has been on the my thing of like, should I get a desk treadmill? And I think you just sold me.
It's really great. And honestly, you can get them on Facebook Marketplace so that you don't have to pay full price, because there was this surge of everyone buying them. And then it was like, no one used them anymore. And I really like them.
Thank
It's the
you.
new smoking. Sorry, someone put in the chat, Krista, sitting is the new smoking. That is what was told to me. I didn't want to repeat that. That just sounded
Yes. Yes.
aggressive. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Does anybody else want to share on either of these? And then we'll go into the next part of our practice. Okay.
I'll go. The autopilot, I think, is like 90% of the day, to be honest. And that was like even more the surface for me even more very recently. I listened to a podcast. It was a Tony Robbins podcast, but he had this it was another man that was doing this whole presentation. It was like 2 hours, so I had to listen to it in like chunks, right? But talking about how basically we are all energy, like our bodies are actually not matter, they're energy, and all of these crazy things. But it was just talking a lot about how our minds work, and like to get through our days, our minds are actually on autopilot most of the day. And like very few times throughout the day are we actually like intentionally thinking or doing something that's like outside of our normal thoughts, I guess. So I think it's like a lot. Oh, and then bringing myself back to the moment. I do occasionally take a breath and try to be intentional about that and feel my body instead of just be in my body, I guess, and like notice what's happening in my body.
Thank you. Yes, your voices are was truly what's making our space so special. Special, excuse me. Does anybody else want to share?
There's somebody in the chat, Christy had
Wow.
said, frequently on autopilot and trying to find a better way to bring myself back. Walks tend to help and going outside. Yeah,
Mm,
agree.
thank you. Okay, lovely. So truly, right there, and this is what I love so much about this work is having spaces with other like-minded friends saying, we cannot control the world stresses, but we can actually control how we're going to respond. And many of us haven't been taught through our schooling about, right, the response compared to the reaction until something comes up quite intense to have us, really look at how our bodies are responding because the emotions, to your point, Krista, yes, we all are energy. We're vibrating molecules and atoms. And when we have a big surge of emotion, it is kind of hard to tame that without tools in our toolbox. So you cannot stop the waves, but you can absolutely learn how to surf, which I thought was quite appropriate. And so before we go into a deeper chunk of our pause, this is again, just keep building community, but I'd love to hear either of any of these questions, one or both. What are the most challenging stressors in your role as a talent professional? And then what impact does the constant hustle have on your energy levels and your mindset?
I guess I'll hop in here. So I'm speaking, I'm not fully employed right now and doing recruiting specifically, but I'll go back to speaking of my last role. Um, Most challenging stressor for me, actually coming from the agency side over to being in-house. On the agency side, when you're on commission, it's like sales, and it's like the pace and the sense of urgency really is that hustle like constantly. And it was kind of hard for me to make the transition and still not feel that way. Like every time there's like, oh my God, there's competition. And I need to like slow it down. And I've been told that many times. I think the hustle gives me a lot of energy and it kind of gives me that, like, I'm just wired that way, but not everything has to be, working on timelines, setting up, like say a project timeline. Having it written out is very good for me, like checking off the list versus just like freaking out. I like just having like a panic every time there's like a new search because it didn't really serve me well, I don't think. That's something that I've just had to learn a little bit over time. I mean, I like putting the energy into recruiting, but it's not the end of the world. It's just not like take your time, do quality work versus like, the quantity. So something I do is I find this very valuable because it's kind of like taking that little pause and breathing and organizing myself and then going back into it. I think it's very helpful for just any recruiter. So thank you for this. It's wonderful. Krista knows me. I'm totally like, yeah, at all times, but not organized.
Me too, girl. I'm right there with you.
That's it, right? We've all been raised in the hustle culture, right? Doing is supposed to be what we're valued for. And it's hard to, yeah, feel comfortable, not guilty, right? About stopping for a moment. And that's actually where a lot of the clarity of thinking, some wisdom, some creativity and new ideas can come from. So yeah, I fully relate to what you're describing in the hustle, right? It was go, 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 and they're more urgent, and that you needed to do that for yourself and also infuse that with others around you, right? That was sort of the expected aura that you had.
Looks like Terry had a comment in the chat in response to the questions. I need to add unique technical talent that is hard to find. I have much success with other roles, but the hard to find talent makes it hard for me to feel fully effective and successful.
Mm.
Um, and that's sometimes if we go back to what's in our control and what's not in our control, and how to have those conversations, right? Because there is often a sense of here's what they're looking for, here's what I have to go get. And yet, right, how do we have some of those other thoughts, conversations different avenues to think about when that's not easy to deliver on. What are the other ways that we can navigate those conversations and solve the problem? For sure. Harry, I hear you. Oh, we had to lose Carly. And Desiree wrote in. Oh, I'm glad you're back in, Desiree. And hopefully feeling better, and that that maybe you can teach us some of the things you do as well. Shell says demanding clients who don't listen or appreciate our role. Yeah. Ooh, I feel that one. Right? Yeah, it's hard to feel like that people don't appreciate your work. And how do you show yourself and build that in yourself, and not, kind of when you're not getting it externally, and still knowing that you're valued and valuable. That's a journey. That's not a one. That's not one day, but certainly really resonates. And being a high turnover industry, that's a lot. So, Christy, I'm curious, is that for you, being in high turnover, is that some of the, so you keep filling the bucket and it keeps falling out, right? It's the holes in the bucket, and talent acquisition is often that gets more pressure. But it's, what are the downstream things that actually need to be addressed? And Terry relates to that too, a constant treadmill.
So thank you. I'm going to just check this last one. Yes. So it's so important. And, what we love to do is to bring it to the surface, not to overwhelm our system, right, with what's real for us, but to then kind of see it with loving eyes and more self-compassion, to realize what we're holding. And then in a beautiful space like this collective, to really get to see we're not alone. And there's so much benefit, right, of just being like, oh, you hear me? You get it? Because many, unless our loved ones are directly in the line of work, they don't fully know because they're not living it. So even if, of course, there's empathy and care and connection, when we can gather with like-minded beings and, get to acknowledge our pain point and then go on a journey, when we go forward, maybe there's a sense of inspiration knowing that we're not alone and we can go off and do the work together. So I'm going to take us through an extended period of practice. And then I just want to see, for my friend who was on the treadmill, you can actually listen in. She had to pop off. Okay, no problem. But what I do want to highlight is I will cue. You can, I'm not sure where everyone's at, but you can take this while you're walking. And many people like to listen to the pause or watch on demand via movement. So definitely encouraging, if you are listening, walking, to keep that going. And so this is going to be an extended period of time. We'll be in it for about, I'd say, 8 to 10 minutes. Again, it's all an invitation. Here we all is just to be curious. We're going to put on, the lens of curiosity to see how it feels. Take what we love, leave the rest. So again, it might be nice to close the eyes or look down. We're going to re-greet our breath. And so the muscles around the lung, the diaphragm, is what is activated when we inhale past the collarbones. And so for many of us, because there wasn't a normalcy on teaching us how to breathe, we're not necessarily as strong in our diaphragm. So it could feel a little uncomfortable, but just the way we go to the gym to strengthen body, move body, this is a great way to support our nervous system, to train our breath. So we're going to stay with this deep, expansive breath and letting it go. And knowing that we are going on a chunk of time, a true reset. It might be even nice to communicate to yourself that this is your time to receive exactly what you need. The inhale can represent welcoming in new, welcoming that sense of joy, of what makes you feel happy, grateful, enthused. And then we can exhale out anything that feels stagnant, heavy, beyond our control. And if you'd like to bring the palms together, starting to rub the hands, we're going to create some heat here. And so by rubbing the palms and creating this friction, this is supporting the brain's function in focus. And also helps us shift out of the autopilot, sensory feeling, clarity on our work. Good. And once the palms feel warm, maybe you go a little faster, a little tingly, we're going to notice what part of the body in this moment is feeling a little tired, achy, dull. And let's bring our charged hands and just give some self-care. So maybe it's a shoulder massage. Maybe the low back has been sore. Maybe the mind has been running full speed. Maybe the jaw or the throat. Maybe there's been a lot of things said, unsaid. Maybe the hands pressed to the heart, many things felt, unfelt. And this connection to self is our true embodiment. It does not take much to bring us back into the body. And it's important to be in the body, right? And do these short practices because then we get to navigate our day and choose what's actually really going to serve us, which again is not necessarily the norm or what we've been taught. The power of our choice, our declare. And then we can rest the hands onto the lap. And with ease, we're just going to take a few shoulder rolls up, back, and around. Again, if it's okay in your environment to let out a little sigh, maybe yawning. If you feel like you've been carrying the weight of the world, other people's stresses, true care. Let us keep the shoulders up to the ears then and squeeze on the inhale and exhale, drop heavy. Good, again. And one last. I always like to brush off the shoulders. This is just signaling to the body that you are tending to yourself. You're brushing it away. No need to hold on. Creating space for a new. Sometimes brushing off the palms is nice. And so from here, we're going to just move a little side to side, a little rocking to warm up the spine. And if you can, kind of engage the core just a little bit, only so we can feel more stable in our back. So when we pull the belly button in, it really activates this inner stability. And to the previous quote shared, right, we can't control the waves, but we can learn how to surf. And it is the great work of Tend-HR to really support this development of inner stability, strengthening capacity on the inside so you can continue to do great work on the outside. And then from side to side, maybe taking a couple circles, sounding it out if you can, or just whispering the HUH, going each way. And we'll come on back. We can take the tips of our fingers or hold soft fists, and we're just going to tap on opposite shoulders, moving down the arms. And this is a free flow tapping practice. So there's different ways to structure, but for today, maybe we tap underneath the collarbones, the jaw, and we're just going to naturally tap here. So tapping, also known as emotional freedom tapping, is similar to acupressure, acupuncture. And as discussed earlier, right, we have felt in spaces where someone's having a bad day and then we start to feel it. Or maybe we're the one having the bad day and then we're, sending that out. many of us, we have a state of emotion, and we're not in maybe a necessarily appropriate space to really let it fully feel. We receive the email, we have a conversation, we see something online that triggers us. And where does that go? Where does that sensation go? For many of us, it does not go anywhere. It stores in body. So through my work, if you're familiar with the book Body Keeps the Score, I've studied with the author, who's known as the grandfather of trauma research. So if we're taking on and taking in, where does it go? It stays in the body. So the tapping is clearing the valve. It's a little different. So if it's uncomfortable and you can lean in, please do so. 2 more breaths, and then we'll slow that down. Good. I always like to brush off the palms and then rest the hands into the lap. And we just notice here, if so far in our sequence of breathing, of movement, of tapping, are we starting to feel any different? And the last technique, research-based, I'll bring in is our body scan, which is research back to really support our sleep. Many of us, that is an area of difficulty because our nervous system is activated. And by the time we're ready for bed, falling asleep is not always the easiest. So it's super simple. I'm going to just name a few body parts, and all you have to do is sense and feel the body part. If you want to take it to the next level, you can, beam and feel gratitude and joy for the body that is holding you. And we'll feel into our feet, loving awareness, into the low legs, and the upper legs, the thighs, into the hips, the torso, to the chest, the heart of compassion, the upper back, relaxing the muscles on the face, awareness down the tops of the shoulders, melting any stress away from the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms, the wrists. And then we'll feel into all of our fingers and the palms of the hands, sensing as if we were holding a weighted ball in each palm. We can bask in this. And again, if you want to take it to the next level, like a light switch, can we turn on the emotional state of gratitude and or joy, even if it's a little faked? The creases of the lip might go up, and we're going to generate an emotional state before necessarily we feel it, because that does change us. And sometimes the mind wants to think about something that brings gratitude or joy. And can you see and sense and feel all trillions of your cells happy? What lights you up, feeling lit up? And we'll hold that for one more breath and let it go. And we'll take a moment and I'll ask the question from that brief sequence: research-based practices, skills, tools to add to your toolbox. What was your experience? You can slowly open the eyes when you're ready, no rush. And if you'd like to place it in the chat or come off mute and bring some voice, you likely are still feeling it. And then the last thing I want to share before the space opens is that this has a lasting effect. even the brief amount of time, research shows that it will transform and change the rest of the day. So we come, we do our brief work, we move forward. Thank you, Desiree. Yeah. And what's beautiful about this sense of calm is it also equates to presence. So when you're in conversation with another, you're really with them. And when you're really with somebody, they can feel that, right? We've been with somebody who's really present and it just feels good to be seen. And then you're being seen. It's a great mirror. And then does anybody else want to share? It's also natural to be like, okay, I'm still in it.
Oh, okay, I'll go again. Nobody else wants to share. I think this was great. It reminds me, I have done a little bit of hypnotherapy at the kind of base level, and it's really what you did a lot of, which is really thinking of a time, like for me specifically, was just thinking of a moment where I really felt that joy that I'd like to find like in my just my everyday life. And I keep going back to that. It's like a, visualization. So I think in these types of exercise, it gives you a moment to kind of feel what it feels like to have that joy. But what do I need to do to get there besides just thinking about, oh, that time I was in Italy and I was walking across a bridge or when my baby was born, but just like incorporate that into what's going to bring me to that happiness on a day-to-day basis. And it takes time to stop and reflect and remember and desire that. So I appreciate these types of breathing exercises. It kind of takes me to that place. So that's my input.
Well,
Thank you so much for sharing, Kelly. And yes, and how do we bring it forward? So I'm going to, we're going to move through this. We're going to definitely, hopefully we get to meet again. I'm going to offer this and then I want to share, we'll share a little gift, just honor our time. So that, I mean, that is the question, love. So feel free. We can take this with us. We don't have to answer it right now, but this is an important question. So how can we use, the power of these practices? So to just refresh. So today, right, we learned that the full expansive breath supports our diaphragm, keeps our cortisol low. Gentle movement helps us bring us back, kind of clear others, feel into body. Tapping clears any stored emotions, and the body scan really regulates us and then also can support a sleep-like state or a sense of presence. So the question we want to leave you with to take forward and get to, write it, jot it, come back to it soon is how can you use the power of the pause, right, from today to bring more joy and balance into your work? So you can take a picture of that. We can share it. And then I'll have Adrienne kind of close us with our little gift. And any questions, we're here for you.
little gift. I want to just add in one of the little mind shifts, or I don't know, I often think about how am I hacking myself, is to move from I have to I get to. And that little shift, and maybe Kelly, that works for you too, or even the idea that, right, our mind doesn't know actually what's real or not in many ways. And so if you're bringing in that sense of joy, whether it was a new piece of joy or something that you're reflecting back, right, that we get to bring that in. So we get to, not have to. But hopefully you feel excited to get to join some of us in the work that we'll do in November. So we're offering you $50 off of our core, which is a 15-minute pause Monday through Friday, live or recorded, that you can join. We do it live Eastern time. So maybe for Desiree, if you're just starting your day, it's going to be 6 a.m., but we're 9 a.m., 9 to 9:15 Eastern. And typically then we are doing that 15 minutes, and it's similar to what Amy took us through this morning. Or this afternoon. And then also the practice, which is about an hour and a half, or a little less than that, kind of going through deeper of some of these practices, spending more time in visualization, more time in body scan, and some really beautiful prompts to help you reflect and journal and get into that sense of, kind of really writing and getting introspective, and clarity that comes for the work that you're doing today, the work you want to do tomorrow, the impact you want to have in your life. So we're so happy to have spent time with you today. Thank you. It's been a really a gift to us, too, that, whenever we're in community, it feels incredible. So a special thank you to Krista for inviting us into Talent Collective. And we hope to work with you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much, ladies. What a great start to the day. I want to start every day like this. But yes, we'll go ahead and send out the recording to this. People could even use it, in their future, just this section if they want in their future days, but also send out those discount codes to everybody who registered today. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thanks for coming. Thank you again to Tend HR for hosting today. And we're excited to learn from you and continue to connect with you all. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.